Live from my office here in Lincoln, Nebraska. It is Trio 30 Talks, and welcome to everyone going to be watching live on Facebook or via our YouTube channel. I'm your host who is very excited that the Big Ten football is on its way back here in October. My name is Brian Stutz, the Academic Outreach Specialist for your Trio Student Support Services program. Hope you all are doing well today. Today we don't have a special guest. It is just me. I'm riding solo today to talk to you about everything about Zoom fatigue and how to help you with your online classes. I've had a few conversations with some students over the past few days, and they told me that, I'm really struggling with it being 75% online, 25% in person. I'm a person who really focuses on online, or having it be online is a really struggle for me. And so hopefully this program is for you and you're able to really kind of have some, take away some things from it and work on how you can be better in your online classes. But we'll also talk a little bit about Zoom fatigue because, it's kind of ironic. We're doing a Zoom right now to talk about Zoom fatigue. I understand that. But I think it's a really important that you have that self-awareness about what it takes when you become too many Zoom calls, why you get so fatigued from it, and some of those types of issues that you may have, and that could help you with your online classes as well when you're in all these Zooms for these classes. So let's go ahead and get started today. So today, first off, let's talk about our Zoom animals, right? So, I'm a guy who talks about spirit animals at times. And so these are your Zoom animals. And for those that are just listening and not watching the video, we have our first Zoom fighter, they call them William. And William is one of those people who logs on to Zoom 15 minutes before class starts, always helps with the tech problems, dresses well, even for the online version. And he's probably in a library or some other academic setting. So if you're William, hats off to you. We have a dog as William is the dog. And so that's important to think about. If that's who you are, you can pick that as your Zoom fighter. Next up, we have Walter, who's a fish. He logs on usually a little bit 15 minutes late. There's always seems to be some type of technical difficulties, whether this isn't working. He doesn't know the difference between the Zoom and Skype. He asks everyone to repeat what they've said always. He's always like, I didn't hear that. Can you catch up? But he's always wearing a nice shirt, but he probably has pajama pants on. So he's got a nice top here, but no, not nice pants on. Then we have Winston, who's like a gerbil. He wants to participate, but their feed is always too slow to keep up. It's always in the loading zone, and he's always getting that cutout freezing moment. When they do finally get a chance to speak, no one can hear them because their mic isn't working. That's Winston there. Then we have our Warren. Again, these are all W names. I don't know why, but that's what they had chose. Warren, he's always shows up for the Zoom. He's that person that's always on the Zoom call. He never participates ever. He just watches the chaos that ensues on the Zoom call. So Warren is that guy that is always there but never says anything and just kind of sits back and watches everything. And he's like a gecko. Then we have Wallace. Wallace is a cat, so he's probably watching TV during class. He shows up in their pajamas, doesn't care what he looks like, just have a regular t-shirt on. He's probably eating, and he's really loud eating, so he's probably laying in his bed as well. The camera's always really close to him, like really close up. And then he might actually be in the wrong class, we're not sure. So these are our Zoom animals, just kind of like spirit animals, so thinking about who your Zoom animal is, might be able to be like, am I this person? And what are the things I need to work on to make sure that I'm a little bit more professional in my Zoom settings. That's just a little intro, a little icebreaker to get going here. So one of the things I want to talk about is Zoom fatigue. It is a new term, obviously, with COVID-19, us having to do everything online. It's important that we talk a little bit about our Zoom fatigue and why are we so Zoom. It seems a lot easier. We just sit around and watch a screen, but there are a few reasons on why. So for one, it's forced us to focus more intently on conversations in order to absorb information. So in a regular meeting, when you're face-to-face, if you miss something, you can whisper to the next person. ask a clarifying question real quick to get it over with. But in a Zoom meeting, it's really hard to do some of those things. You have to wait for somebody to pause and then be like, oh, excuse me, I got a question. Well, can you repeat what you just said? I'm not unsure of what that was. And so sometimes it's hard and you feel like you're interrupting. So sometimes you just let it go. But so that means you have to really focus in on more. So you're focusing in on the conversation very intently, which can really make your brain a little bit more tired than usual. And so really being able to focus. So I'm a big Star Wars fan. So focus you must, or control you will lose. That's something that I think Yoda says. But yeah, we have to really focus on in these Zoom calls. Next, like I said, so we need to really focus. But another reason why we can be Zoom fatigue is that we can easily lose our focus. So we can listen to the meeting. So when we're on a Zoom call, there is so many things that we can do. If we have two screens or if we have another screen, our phone's next to us, we're able to just say, oh, here's my phone. Let me look at my phone real quick while I'm on the Zoom meeting. Or, hey, I'm going to send this message out. I'm going to send this email, check my email. Or I'm going to check my Canvas. Or I'm going to check all my social media posts on the other screen or on my screen that I'm watching and be able to text a friend too. So it's really easy to lose focus as opposed to when you're in a meeting, we can kind of see some of those things in our facial expression. So that's something that you can lose focus. So then you're not learning and hearing the information, which then again leads to some of that fatigue. So one does not simply focus, but, oh, wait, hey, look at that funny tweet, right? And so that's something that we need to really focus on, focusing on focusing. So I would say focus. So space to have meetings. So really focusing on, we get distracted by our pets, by our roommates, by our partners, significant others, our kids, if we have kids out there. And those are some things that our space in our rooms can really focus on what can be distracting and really kind of grow tired of Zoom calls. For instance, if you're in a very important class and your roommates come into the door and start talking when you're obviously in the class, that could be disruptive to you and you're not going to be able to pay attention. And so being able to think about your space. So you have Kristen Bell here, you got your pets all over you, distracting you, you got your roommate looking in at you and trying to get everything from home. And so we'll have some tips to kind of combat some of these things as well. And then the process of information. So the only way to kind of show that we're paying attention in Zoom is that we stare right at the camera. How often do you stare at a teacher or colleague right in the face like this? And, when we're in the meetings, are we just staring intently into each other's eyes throughout the whole meeting? I assume that never happens. And so what you really need to focus on is what we call this constant gaze. So one of the research out there right now, it tells us that the constant gaze really causes us to become more tired and uncomfortable. Right? If I'm in a meeting with you and we're face to face and I'm just staring at you like this, with this constant gaze, you're going to start feeling uncomfortable and not wanting to really participate. As opposed to when we're in a Zoom call, that's pretty much what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to be staring right at you, or you're going to be staring right back at me as I'm the presenter talking. And right now I can't really see you staring at me. And so that's very important when we're thinking about that constant gaze. And so also like in a meeting, the process of information, we kind of like turn our heads and look over, in a meeting, we can look out the window real quick. But when we're in a Zoom, if I do this, it makes you think that maybe I'm not paying attention. And so that's something that also that can really lose our focus and get that process of information. So this little meme I created, it talks about Zoom, that's a Zoom meeting in person. So if that was the real case, we'd be face to face like this always. And that's not the case. So something to think about as we look at, how do we combat these Zoom fatigues. So first tip we have is to avoid multitasking. All right. Switching tasks between multitasking can cost you up to as much as 40% of productivity time, according to research. And so people that are multitasking during Zoom calls, you're going to miss out on a lot of the information. If you're not going to be able to remember things as well, what was said. And so one of the things to do is close out all your tabs when you're in a Zoom call. Make sure your phone is like an arm's length away so you can't reach to your phone during the Zoom call, and be able to kind of limit some of those distractions. Again, think about it as if you were in class or a meeting or whatever it may be and you're in a Zoom call, And you just try to think of it as, okay, I'm actually in the classroom. Would I always have my phone out like this, texting and doing that in class? Or would I be sitting trying to pay attention? So really focusing on trying to think of it as that way and putting yourself in the actual classroom, even though you're on a Zoom call. Next thing is you want to try to build in some breaks. So you want to minimize the screen that you're on. Like, so maybe you're in like a 2-hour class on Zoom. You can still keep your Zoom up, but you can easily minimize your screen so you're not looking at the Zoom call the whole time. Maybe if you need to take a quick break, you can mute your screen, stand up and kind of stretch it out and kind of turn your head a bunch and really focusing on staying away from the screen. Now, that's not an invitation to go and do something else. So remember that. It's just taking a quick break from looking at the screen, but not to go look at another screen on your phone or not to go do something else. So really try to do that. If you're in any type of meeting or you have any type of like class, or you want to schedule a meeting with your professor, try to ask for a 25-minute meeting if it's like back-to-back meetings. That way you get 5 minutes in between one or the other to really focus on getting that kind of break in and get a chance to move up and around. So like I said, the meme here, it talks about you're great at multitasking, but you can waste time, be unproductive, and procrastinate all at once, right? And so thinking about that as we're multitasking and building in breaks. So the next one is we want to reduce, and oh yeah, Baby Yoda, it's break time. And this is the way if you're any Star Wars Mandalorian fans out there. And so the next one is reduce on-screen stimuli. So research shows when on a Zoom call, you spend the most time actually looking at your own face. Now, some of you might have your screen paused right now, but if you were on there, you're going to spend the most time looking at your own face. Like right now, I look at my own face because I want to make sure my expressions are where I need to be. I'm looking at the camera for you all. But when you're in a Zoom call, you're going to be looking at yourself the whole time. So during that time, you're going to be looking at, it's like looking at a mirror, for an hour, a straight hour looking at yourself in a mirror. You're going to notice my hair is a little messed up. I have some wrinkles or a pimple on my forehead somewhere. And so you're going to start noticing some of those things, which is going to really kind of stress you out a little bit more and cause a little bit more anxiety. And so that's important to think about when you are in Zoom calls and you are having your face on the whole time and your video is showing, to make sure you hide yourself from the view. You can easily do that on Zoom, is like kind of move your screen with the video away so you don't see that. So make sure you hide yourself from the view. So yeah, so when you look in the mirror, and then you get scared, that's kind of the thing that I think about for me. But yeah, when we talk about making virtual social events, so if you have a social event that you want to do, make sure it's like an opt-in social event. Don't make it always like mandatory. If you're a part of a club or organization, saying we're gonna have this mandatory meeting online, make it an optional social event for students to come to. And then lastly, if it's possible, switch to a phone call or an email, and make sure the other person's okay with that though. Like for instance, our counseling center who came on the Trio 30 a few weeks ago, they do some Zoom calls as well. They're going to want to see your facial expressions. They're going to want to see you so that way they can kind of get a better idea of how you actually are feeling. But if it's someone you might not really know and it's a professor, maybe it's okay. You can email and call as opposed to doing a Zoom call. But make sure the other person's okay with that. So that's a way to limit those. And those are some tips for you thinking about that. Here's some of my resources that I found cited here. From some different websites about Zoom fatigue and how that can work. And so first off, before we move on to working an online class and how you're able to really help yourself in the online setting and working those classes, we're going to first talk about our sponsor. We got a new sponsor today. This sponsor is all about personal finance. And here we're going to, and as Dwight says, did anyone say extra money? Yes, because that's what personal finance does. It helps you get extra money in your pockets. And so what Trio Student Support Services has purchased is a subscription for an online class that is all about money management and learning about how to personally finance. And so this is very important for some of us, as some of our students, we might not have the most money. And so how can we make that dollar go the longest way? And so this class is going to help you learn about saving money. It's going to learn about how you can budget. It's going to be what is debt and how you can manage it. So what actually is debt? How do I get debt? Is debt good, bad? What do I need to know about that? So it takes about 10 hours of time, which is quite a bit. It is a lengthy course. It has some videos and some quizzes for you to really learn to help better your financial situation. You'll get 10 TRIO points where you can use that to say that you've came and worked on those programs. So TRIO points are very important if you want to end up getting some extra spending dollars for your classes and things along those lines. And then the first 10 to register are going to receive a school bag that we have for people. Where you'll have some school supplies and different types of things in there. You'll be getting an email here shortly in the next week about registering for the class, but I wanted to send this out now. But if you're really interested in it and you want to get started this weekend, feel free to email me, Brian Stutz at bstutz@unl.edu, and that's bstutz@unl.edu. And this is a great chance for you to kind of email me. I can send you the information so you can log in and start that class and get a chance to get started on it. So those that are listening now are going to have that chance to be able to do that. So that's our sponsor, So Foundate, and it's Ramsey, if you've ever heard of him. He's the one that is really big on budgeting. Again, this is a way that you can help you right now. You might have a part-time job making a little bit of money. How can you make that money last? What are some steps you need to take to conquer debt if you have any debt, and how to build your debt? And so those are different ways that you can do that. So feel free to register for that. It is free for all of our TRIO students. Again, free is the key here. These classes will normally cost money if you're an adult like myself, and so take advantage of it now while you can and learn a little bit about how to really get your money where it needs to be. So that's our sponsors at Foundation and Personal Finance. Thank you for sponsoring us. Moving forward, all right. So online, the classes, the struggle is real sometimes. I understand that. And so we're going to talk about what ways and why online classes are struggling for you. So the first step is space for learning. All right, so where are you doing your online class? Are you doing it in your room? Because your room could look like this room right here, which is uncomfortable, it's crowded, it's cramped. You have distractions coming in from your roommates. Your TV and your video games or your whatever, your phone is right there. I can easily be distracted from that. You have friends down the hallway. If you have neighbors, you go right over next door. All those things are distractions to you. So your space for learning is really important when we're thinking about online class. People think, oh, online class is easy. I'm just going to do it from home, or I'm going to do it from my room always. And that might be a little bit harder for you to focus on that because you're sleeping in that room, you're in that room all the time, and so it becomes a chance for you to be distracted easier. Kind of what we talked about a little bit before about avoiding distractions. No peer connections. One of the things that's really hard of an online class is you don't have that peer-to-peer connections. You don't have that person sitting next to you where you can be like, hey, do you want to get a study group together? Or hey, you're in my class, I just saw you in my class, do you want to go grab lunch so I can get a chance to meet some new people and then make some new friends and have that connection with someone that, hey, I met this person in my my finance class or my Life 120 class. And so these are some things that is harder to do. Luckily, the university has Canvas, and we'll talk a little bit about Canvas and how you might be able to just kind of reach out to some of those students. If you're in a Zoom call, there's the private chat feature saying, hey, I see you in my class and I'm trying to meet some new people. Let's get that connection. All right. So that's one of the things that's a struggle for some people is that there's no peer connections for you all. It takes more discipline to be in class. A lot of our students are coming straight from high school to college. In high school, 80% of the work was in class, 20% of the work was outside of class, give or take. That's what kind of the statistics show. In college, it's going to be about flipped, right? 20% of your class, or 20% of your work is going to be done in class, and 80% of your work is going to be done out of class. Now, when you have an online class, all that has gone to almost 100% all by yourself, all online, figuring out how to manage that. And so it's going to take some discipline, and that's what becomes really hard for us to struggle because we need to be disciplined, when we have our class schedule and we go to in the class, we know we're going 3 days a week here. Online class, you might not go any times on a call or wherever you may be, and you don't have any connection. You don't have any motivation to get up sometimes. You can just lay in your bed and roll over and be on the Zoom call. And so that's what sometimes these struggles can happen, because you're not as disciplined and not as also motivated. So motivation is key as well when we're doing an online class to be motivated. Sometimes for me personally, I'm not going to be as motivated to go to my online or to be on an online class because I don't have to go anywhere. I can just put it off to the weekend. I can put it off later because it's online, so it's not a big deal. And so that's why people are struggling a little bit, because they're putting it off to the end, and then a lot of other stuff is building up, and that's where the stress and anxiety comes from, all these online classes. And so motivation is also key. And as I use this every time I try to do some online homework, I look at a piece of paper and then I look at another piece of paper, and then I think I'm just going to sleep because, I'm in my room or I'm where I'm at. And so those are some of the kind of reasons why we struggle with online classes, and some of the research that shows us that these are some of the reasons why you may be struggling. And if you're struggling with some of these issues, that it is okay. You're in the same boat as everyone else. And so here are some tips now as we get into, I forgot one last struggle. There's no teacher sometimes to keep on track of things, right? Sometimes the teacher, the professor might not be there to be like, hey, you weren't at class, or hey, you weren't doing this, right? They're just gonna be like, oh, you didn't turn that online assignment in, and they're gonna get you a 0 for that. And so it's important. So sometimes having that teacher and that connection with that teacher in person is very helpful. And so without having that connection, it might lead to some of those no motivation, not having a discipline. Sometimes you need that coach to really there to push you and in the right direction. And sometimes professors are ones that be able to do that for you. Not every professor, but some are. So tips on how to really help you with your online learning. So you got to eliminate the distractions. And this is going to be really tough. These things are going to be tough for you. You might say, oh yeah, no, I get that. I need to eliminate the distractions. But really, how can I eliminate those distractions, right? And that's why I like finding a new way to find out where to go. You have an online class. Maybe it is time to be going to the library, like that Zoom animal who goes to the library, the academic setting, to do their online class. We have an office here in Canfield 220. You're able to come right to this. You can maybe put some headphones in and go into a conference room and be able to do the online class there. So that way you're out of your room and out of the way of distractions. You're kind of locked in on that online class. So you have to really treat it like a real course. So if your online class has different Zoom times, come to campus, go to the library, go into a study room, really focusing on doing that, not just do it from your room. Come to Canfield and do it. If your class is online and has no Zoom calls, you got to find some time to treat it like a real course. So maybe it's like, hey, from 4 to 5 on Thursdays, I'm going to come to Canfield. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to work on my online Life 120 class. And so that's something that you can think about. Like, here's how I get that. You have to really hold yourself accountable. And this kind of blends in a little bit with our time management. So holding yourself accountable online. Time management is one of the biggest struggles I think of any first-year student has. You can be the most organized person in the world. Sometimes time management is going to slip through your fingers. Again, I relate a lot to our high school and our transition because that was so relevant in the past year for you all, for most of you all that are watching this, is that, in class, you were in high school 8 hours a day. You were working. You were in the classroom from like 7:30, 8 a.m. to 2, 3 p.m. You might have had an after-school sport, then went home, did your homework, did it all over again. Well, now in college, you might have a class at 8 a.m., but might not have another class till 2 p.m. So figuring out a way for time management to work. Are you just going to go to that class at 8 a.m. and then take a nap until 2, all right, and then stay up all night and do it all over again? Or are you going to spend some time in the middle of the day really figuring it out? And what you need to do. Do you block off time for your online class? So maybe I have my in-person class at 8 a.m. At 9 a.m., I'm going to go work on my online class from 9 to 11, and then I go eat lunch, and then I'll move on and do something else for the rest of my day. So figuring out your time management schedule is really crucial. Not everyone's schedule is going to fit everyone. Not every time management strategy is going to fit your personality and your learning style. And so that's where you really need to think about who you are and have some self-realization about, okay, what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And so that's where you really need to kind of spend some time with, coming to our office, say, hey, I'm really struggling with time management. Can you give me some different strategies of how to work through those things? My personal strategy is I use my computer, my electronic for everything. So on my calendar, I have it down to, okay, here's what I'm doing this day. Here's what I'm doing the next time, right? And say, sometimes on a calendar, oh, that's good for meetings and stuff. But, I have a paper. What am I going to do? Or I have homework I need to do. Well, start blocking out times for yourself. So say we go from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. we have a class. From 9 to 10, I'm going to work on my math homework. I might not have any math homework to work on, but from 9 to 10, I'm going to read some math homework so I can maybe get ahead. Maybe I can learn something else for my math. Look at the syllabus. What am I going to do? What's coming up? And really focusing on that time and say, this is my time to do this. Same with writing a paper. If you're in your English class and you're like, oh, this paper is not due till 3 weeks from now. Well, maybe spend, 3 hours each week sometime finding 3 separate hour blocks. Say, hey, I'm going to work on my paper here. Maybe that might not work for you. Maybe you're like, I need to work on it all at one time. But maybe it's time to put a block in your schedule on like a Saturday saying, from 8 a.m. to noon, I'm going to work on my paper. And so really focusing on blocking out your schedule that way to really kind of help you manage your time so you can see where the opens are. Even putting in like when you're going to sleep, when you're going to take a nap, when you're going to eat, when you're going to go work out at the rec center, which by the way, if you look more information on the rec center, you can check out our last podcast for the campus rec here at UNL. They had some great activities for you to do, just a little plug in for there. And so, so figuring out your time management, and that's going to be kind of the best way for you to really tackle these online classes, because it is a struggle. It is hard to have that concept of it's online, but I need to schedule time in person for it. And lastly is create a study space that is organized for you. You want to make sure that you have the space where you have everything at your fingertips. It's not messy. There's no distractions. There's no TV on where I can turn my head and just say, hey, I'm going to watch this Netflix show now for the next 3 hours until it says, hey, are you still watching? And so then you're like, oh, I just spent 3 hours watching this TV show and I wasted all this time. As opposed to, hey, can I get all my work done and then watch Netflix, right? So being able to discipline yourself again and saying, set goals for yourself. Hey, I spend 2 hours of watching or 2 hours of doing my homework and getting this done. Hey, maybe I'll spend an hour or two watching Netflix now to kind of take a chance to unwind and relax. Or maybe I'll go to the rec center and work out. Whatever it may be, but you have to really think about your time management skills and moving forward there. Some different other tips to continue. Again, we talked about eliminating distractions, learning about how you learn best. Do I learn best by reading out loud to myself? Do I learn best of hearing it? What's my learning style? Really thinking about that. And there's tests online to figure out what your learning style is and doing that. You have to be active in your online class. So on Canvas, reaching out to the professor still. So if you're struggling with an online class, reach out to your professor and say, hey, professor, I'm on your online Life 120 class and I'm not doing so well. And I don't know what's not clicking for me, but I was wondering if we could schedule a time to meet. Maybe you can give me some strategies to really help me tackle this class, right? And kind of approach it that way. You be active. So it's a time to be active for that. And build relationships. Build relationships with your professor, build relationships with your classmates, and be able to really focus on how I can best help me. Where there's a lot of resources on campus to help you with your online classes and all your other things that are going on. And so that's important to really focus in on that. And those are some of my tips to really help you with online classes, help you with battle Zoom fatigue as well. Next week, we're going to have housing come in, and if anyone's interested in being an RA, which is a resident assistant, they have really good benefits, like living for free is a really good benefit. At least I'm pretty sure that's what they get here, but they'll come next week to talk all about how to apply. Their applications are opening up. And so if you're really interested in that, to be in the residence halls and be a leader on campus, really great skill to have. I think it's one of the best student jobs on campus. I'm a little biased. I was an RA for 3.5 years and worked with RAs for about 7 for the last 7 years. And so really focusing in on being a student leader, all those types of things. And so that's what's coming up next week, and they're going to be on here to talk all about that. So we'll actually have a guest, so you don't have to hear me talk for the whole 30 minutes. And then also, if you were here, please, use that QR code, fill it out, let us know you were here. That tracks us and gives you points coming to programs. So that way, when you're ready to, get the information and get the help that you need, we can say, oh, look at you. Brittany is on a Zoom call. She's been coming to some of these to get some help and some information. And that's going to be very helpful for us to track because we care about you. We want you to be successful. And this is a good way for us to do that. And with the pandemic and everything going on with COVID, this is all online. So you're able to look online and do it as well. So we know that you watched it later on in the day or in the week. Again, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, follow us anytime there. Also, look on YouTube for us. We are UNL Scholars. Subscribe. Still trying to get up to that 100 followers, 100 subscribers, and we're able to really focus in on that. So that way I can get a custom URL, which would be kind of fun. And so that's it for today. My final thoughts for today is if you're having any struggles with your online class, to reach out to me, reach out to anyone in our Student Support Services office. We are here to help you kind of figure it out. Everything is very individualized. You have to think about yourself, so really kind of focus in on that. Now's the time to know if you're not doing so well in class, to really reach out to our office or your professor to figure out how you can turn it around. If you start to wait to week 6, week 8, might be a little too late to turn things around. So right now is the time to really start thinking about that. That's my final thought for the day. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you all for watching this, whether you came to the Zoom call or you're watching now on YouTube or on Facebook. Appreciate it. We'll see you all next week. Have a great day and go Big Red.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.